Atlas Audio Podcast Network.
Friends, herstorians, certifiable baddies, lend me your ear holes. We come not to deliver a serious history podcast, but to whine about women whomst thou may not have heard of, but deaf shouldeth have. Welcome to Whining About Herstory, the women's history podcast, where we do literally what I just said while drinking. Typically wine.
Typically. Not always.
Typically. You know, maybe we need some harder stuff because the world is falling apart. It's
Sometimes.
fine. We all cope in different ways. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley, and I love your mixture of like modern slang with like old-fashioned English.
I do love it very much. It is Def 100 milady. Oh my God. Well, we're going to get right into what we're drinking today because today's glass of wine is sponsored.
Woohoo!
What's up, Sophia Flores?
We see you. You're amazing.
Seriously love you and would do a lot of things for you. So I've been, every now and then I see like a really cute house on like that's for sale online and I send them to Egg and I just say the awful degrading things I would do for this house. Sophia, the awful things that we would do for you.
Because we
to
love
make you
so
happy.
Much. Yeah. So
Sophia has sponsored this glass of wine by going to our buymeacoffee.com/WAH pod website. You can sponsor 1, 3, 5, or infinity. I don't know your life. I don't know your finances. As many glasses of wine as you would like. If you'd like to make a suggestion for what you would like us to drink in your honor, feel free to do so. Most people are just kind of surfing the vibe and letting us do whatever the hell we want. So Sophia writes, I just turned 21. Sweet baby angel, we love you and absolutely love you both. I struggle with mental illness and cannot tell you how awesome it is to hear such strong women be so honest about their struggles and experiences. You are amazing and deserve so much light. I'm feeling really good that I've tricked someone into thinking I'm a strong woman.
Same. Like,
is
that
that how I'm
boosts
coming
the
off?
self-esteem a little.
Oh, I needed to hear that this week. I needed that this week.
Yeah, same. It's been a rough week.
So, Sophia, I'm so glad that you have joined the legal drinking age in which you can join us in our wine shenanigans. Winanigans. And today we are drinking a glass of Grateful Dead limited edition Gnarly Head.
And actually, so grateful for you.
We're so grateful for you. But also, I think the first time we had Gnarly Head was when we did a collaboration with #History. And we were talking about women in medicine who were good and not so good. So they covered Jane Toppin and we covered Dorothea Dix, who was like a revolutionary in like mental health care reform. And I was like, oh, like gnarly head, because that's how my head feels when I'm like having a bad day. I've got a gnarly head. So the fact that, you know, us talking about our mental health issues, all of them, so many of them, has actually helped, kind of fits with this bottle of wine.
It
so
does,
I'm very happy.
It's also very pretty.
It's Gurge. So it's a Cab Sauv, California 2023. And the back reads, when the Grateful Dead took the stage, the music had a life of its own, creative and freewheeling. That limitless energy can be found in our twisted, gnarly head of vines. Never pretty or proper, but bold in their flavors. Two icons that have always preferred to do things their own way. Come together for our limited edition Grateful Dead bottles. Our Gnarly Head Cabernet Sauvignon is explosively flavorful with layers of black cherries and violets. Add a hint of spicy clove and bold tannins, and you have a dark, jammy red that's ready to pair with nearly 60 years of classic music. Women should not drink while pregnant.
Also, I feel very old now that 60 years of classical music.
That fucked me up. Because, like...
Feeling old now.
I mean, I wasn't born until the 90s, but the 70s doesn't seem that long ago. But to hear it, like, 60 years, I'm like, make it stop, please.
The world's going too fast.
It always is, constantly. So I'm just gonna clink against the wine bottle, but cheers to you, Sophia. And if you want to be like Sophia, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/WAH pod and sponsor a glass of your own.
That's a very beautiful plug.
Great butt plug. Best I've ever seen.
Great head.
Great head. Great head. Great butt plug.
Gnarly head.
Gnarly. Like in the good, cool surfer way.
Exactly.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. That was a good ring clink.
It wasn't great.
It was audible.
It was. I'm just drinking straight from the bottle, so I just use my ring. We're fine. Everything's fine. I'm a huge fan of this wine, though.
Yeah. I remember the first one we had being good.
Yeah, no, Gnarly Head is good stuff. This is also wine that I got at the Wine and Wolves benefit. So this bottle of wine is saving like 10 wolves right now.
Yeah, so
you did that, Sophia.
Exactly. I was like, Sophia can feel extra good. She's giving us the warm, fuzzy feelings, and she's saving wolves.
Saving wolves left and right. They were going to shoot wolves if I didn't buy this bottle of wine for Sophia.
Yeah.
It was a really tense benefit.
I bet
it wasn't like previous years.
Emily's over there just nail biting, like, oh God, I gotta do this.
I'm like, oh my God, you can shoot me instead. No, it was a good time. It was a good time. No, it was so much fun. I got so much wine at that. Like, so we're going to be having some super interesting bottles of wine on the podcast for the next several weeks.
Yeah. Because that is what a badass Sophia is.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I mentioned this. She actually sponsored 5 glasses of wine. So we're going to hear about Sophia more next week, too.
Yeah. We're going to talk a lot about Sophia, mainly just her name over and over and how grateful we are.
I'm just going to make
all
stuff
the
up
nasty
about
things
her.
we would do.
I'm just going to
we know her age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
about it.
Yeah. Like, also, Sophia, just be careful with the drinking, okay? Yeah. We all have the stories of
we all have the alcohol we won't go back to.
We all have the alcohol we won't go back to. We've all pissed in an alley. Like, just please make sure you got some good people around you. And just, take it easy. Just take it easy. Just be good, do good. Kelley, who the fuck are you whining about today? You're just not saying anything.
No,
so I'm just like, okay, I guess we're moving on.
Be good, do good, just sink in. It needed a moment to breathe, like a good wine.
Yeah, but it had like 3 moments, and it got really uncomfortable for me because I can't do silence.
It's like half my job sometimes.
I hate that.
That is like my number one trick as a therapist of... You learn which clients don't like silence, and so you sit there silently until they tell you things.
That is also the trick of criminal interrogators. Mm-hmm. They just sit there and don't say anything because the suspect gets so anxious about the silence that they just keep talking.
Clearly, I would make an okay criminal then, because I would also just sit there and be like, what? Can I get a sandwich?
Can't get a sandwich.
They'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Lots
of things.
Do you have any non-dairy creamer for this coffee? Oh, no. Soda. I mean, do you have like French vanilla? You just have caramel. I guess.
God, you guys are cruel.
Oh my God. Fine. I'm the Zodiac killer. Jesus. I'm like, This is against my constitutional rights right now.
Right. All right.
So, Kelley, who are you whining about?
I'm whining about Patsy Young.
Which sounds like Maybe I'm just thinking of like Patsy Cline, but it sounds like very like 70s folk singer.
No, not quite. I mean, we're going farther back than that. But yeah, it does. I think it's the name
Wait,
Patsy.
to the 50s?
No, to the 1824s.
Fuck. Okay.
Go back.
Like 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah. 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 Didn't even think about that until right now.
No, that's 200 years ago, right?
201 years ago.
My brain, can you see the smoke
Yeah,
just billowing out of my
like-
head? My brain actually broke right there.
Mine's kept in by my headphones.
Because I remember I had a book as a child that was literally like, what was life like 100 years ago? And it was talking about the 1890s, the late 1800s. And
Yeah,
now
we're
people
before
are
that.
like, can I use this source from the late 1900s? And I'm like, you need to stop.
Yeah, you're like, it's not that long ago.
Feed them to the wolves.
Yeah. Exactly. We'll give them to the wolves instead of hurting the wolves. Anyway, so Patsy. So, on August 20th, 1824, the following notice was published in the Raleigh Register. This is North Carolina, in case people don't hear Raleigh and immediately know where it's from. It's North Carolina.
I know it's from one of the Carolinas.
It's of the northernmost Carolina.
Oh, of the northernmost Carolina.
Mhm. So the headline simply read, and Emily, if you scroll down, you can read the whole thing. This is like excerpts from it because it's like, I mean, it's a short paragraph, but I didn't copy all of it. So I'm just going to talk about part of the article. But the title was literally just $100 reward. And then it said underneath, oh, caveat, any language I use when I'm using quotes is language from the time, not language that I feel appropriate. We are going to be talking about slaves. And unfortunately, people who were slave owners were not always nice to them, or what they called them, or what they did to them. And there's going to be some of that in this episode. So that is my warning.
Just in case anyone needs a reminder that enslaving other human beings
Is awful.
is
Don't
a
do
bad
it.
thing.
Yeah.
Because
So-
it feels like more people need to be reminded of that.
Okay, so $100 reward. Run away or was stolen from the subscriber on the night of the 8th instant. A bright mulatto woman, slave. I like that they clarify. Slave.
Like in parentheses.
Yep. I don't.
Jesus Christ.
Maybe I like did that. Like now I have to
No,
look.
I'm looking at the picture
no, it
of
does,
the
yep.
article. It's in parentheses. And
Okay,
it's
good. Yeah.
I hate
Just
all of this.
Yeah. Well, yep. So it says, and her child, a girl of about 4. So that was like the initial part. And then it goes on to like talk about other things. It says, she's an excellent seamstress, can make ladies and gentlemen's dresses, is a good cook and weaver. And I am informed a good cake baker and beer brewer, by which occupations she principally gained her living. I have but little doubt that Ackle Jackson has contrived to seduce or steal her and child out of my possession, and will attempt to get them out of state and pass as free persons. It ends with, I will give $65 for his detection and conviction. I will give for the apprehension of the woman and child $35. I like that convicting him is worth twice as much as 2 people. Just saying. Didn't notice that the first time I wrote it.
Again, the
or I will-
economics of owning other human beings has never made sense because it's not supposed to.
Well, and he's not even asking for the guy back. He's just like, I want him arrested, but I want these 2 other people back, but you only get half the money if you bring them back.
That's
So $35 for both, $25 for the woman, or $10 for the child alone. The proper name of the woman is Piety, but she will no doubt change it as she did before. So obviously there are certain parts of this article that probably you're like, wait, what? Because it talks about like how she made a living and how she changed her name before and all of that stuff. So the reason I'm leading with this is, 1, unfortunately, ads like this, which was for a runaway slave, were commonplace. Like they would be right next to a lost dog ad in a newspaper. And that's horrible.
it's fucking gross. Like, I'm sorry. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of like a better way to put it, but it's just really fucking disgusting.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes, like, and I feel like this is super unfortunate, but like a lot of slaves this might be the only way people know their names or have any glimpse into their life at all. And that's really sad. And it makes me very, very like heartbroken that like so many people did so many terrible things and we just don't know anything about the people that happened to.
I was going to say this ad or whatever you want to call it is oddly detailed.
Yeah. And that's actually what I was gonna say. It is oddly detailed because usually it's just like this is what the runaway looks like. This is how much I'm offering. Also, the ad leads with $100 reward, but then ends with I'll give you $35 for the woman and child. So I also realize their math doesn't add up.
I was actually doing the math on it. It's $65 for prosecuting the guy who he thinks has helped them escape. $35.
The guy who wrote this article is a dick because it's like you have to do everything to get the $100 reward. You don't only get the 100.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Anyways, clickbait has always existed. It's always been the worst.
Yeah. So yeah, like Emily said, this is a particularly detailed article. Like it names other people that may or may not have stolen her. It names professions she may have had, along with like that she had a kid and stuff like that. And the kid makes sense because it's like, okay, you're losing two people, two workers. But the reason it's so detailed is because this is actually the second time that Patsy had ever run away. Or Piety, which I'm not going to call her that. I'm going to call her Patsy because that's the name she chose. So Piety was her enslaved name, and the name she had chosen for herself was Patsy Young. So,
you know how we always talk about names that we need to bring back? Names
Patsy?
like Piety and Prudence and like Virtue, those names don't have to come back. We can leave them in the past.
Yeah, I'm not. No. Yeah,
like
I'm good.
Hope and Grace and like those names kind of survive that era, and that's okay.
Those are okay.
But like, don't name your child Chastity, please.
Please, yeah. So, as I mentioned, Patsy had run before, and it's actually because this article or this ad is so detailed that we actually know more about Patsy's life. So there is a woman from the Smithsonian whose name, I need to scroll down, is Teresa McCullough, and she was able to use this second ad and the details that the slave owner had put in it to kind of spread out her search to find other records to figure out maybe what happened to Patsy in between the first time she ran and the second. And so like my main most of this information came from like 2 articles, mostly just the one from Teresa.
I love that she went full national treasure on this shit.
Yeah. Well, and she definitely had the means. Like she works for the Smithsonian. If anyone can do it, it's going to be someone from something like that.
I know, but how cool would that be if that was your job?
Oh God, I would love that.
I want to be a professional national treasure.
Yeah. I do wonder, like, yeah, was this part of her job, or was it like a passion project on the side? So she did write an entire article that I'll talk about later, and there is also a podcast episode from that article that I have not listened to, but it's about the same thing. Anyways, so here's what we know about Patsy. She was born in 1792. That's it. We don't know the date. We know the year.
That was 100 years before Lizzie Borden allegedly murdered her parents.
Yes.
Time is insane.
But yeah, so like, and the only reason we probably know the year she was born is just general census records. And it's a best guess. We know that her family was owned by a man named Osborne Jeffries, who was one of the largest landowners in North Carolina history. Just flat out. And we know that by the time Patsy had run away for the first time, she was actually owned by his grandson, a man named Nathaniel Hunt. So we know this because there are the records of Jeffrey's will. So originally he passed land down to his 2 grandsons and his enslaved people to Nathaniel's mother, his daughter. And it's worded in his will that he gave his daughter, quote, Old Sam, Easter and her children, Patty, Ippy, Clara, Sally, Anthony, Farabee, Alice, Moses, Hannah, Simon, Tinker, Tom, Lavina and her children, Stephen, Jordan, Charlie, and Rachel. So those are all the enslaved people, and it ends with all of their increase to her and her heirs I assign forever. So basically, like, here, you get to own these people and all of their offspring. Congrats.
Sorry, I feel like I don't have anything I can say that I can add. That's because I'm just disgusted right now,
I do
and
like
I'm
the
just
name
feeling
Farabee,
that.
though.
What?
In the middle, there was a name Farabee. I like that name.
I like Tinker Tom.
It's
Or
Tinker,
wait, were those
comma,
two-
Tom. Yeah, two different
so
names.
there was a child named Tinker and another child named Tom.
Yep.
I hope they were twins. That'd be so cute.
But yeah,
Everything else about this situation is just
it's
awful.
horrible.
But that would be really. I would totally name twins Tinker and Tom.
Yeah, and
But like
the way it's
again,
worded,
it's like, hey, I'm like leaving human beings to you, and you get to own them forever because we're monsters.
yeah, and
but
all
it's
their
legal.
heirs, because enslavement, at least in our country, followed what was known as the condition of the mother, which meant if your mother was a slave, regardless of how you were conceived, who your father was, or anything like that, you were also a slave, because slave owners did horrible things to the people they owned, and this just meant they made their own slaves, which is horrible.
Yeah, exactly. That gave white enslavers permission to rape enslaved women without consequence.
Right.
What, worst
really,
case
the only
scenario?
consequence was I get another slave.
Yeah, worst case scenario, that person has a child and they're added to your unpaid workforce. Like, what the?
It's so like the more you think about it, the grosser it gets.
It really is fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
It's like we talk about rape culture. This is part of that,
extreme.
Though. This is 100% part of that.
Yeah. So we don't know exactly what year Patsy transferred from Nathaniel's mother to Nathaniel. We know Nathaniel was born about 10 years prior to Patsy, so you can kind of guess. So the interesting thing is, as Teresa was looking, there are no remaining records of her enslavement in the state archives of North Carolina. Like, they found other records of Patsy's life, but not any records pertaining to her enslaved days, which is very interesting to me. Because you'd think people would keep meticulous records, but maybe they're just like, you know what? Slavery is falling out of fashion. I'm going to go burn those old record books.
I don't think it's so much of a burning of the records, but okay. They're viewing human beings as livestock. You don't keep meticulous records of your individual cows, do you?
Yeah. Especially if you're selling them. Like, if you're buying and selling like animals, I think it's more odd that we don't have like a record of like his mother, like a will to pass from mother to kid, you know. I think that's more the oddity, is like, oh, it's kind of weird that there's this record of grandpa passing land to him and like the enslaved people to mom, but there's no like record of when they switched hands from mom to Nathaniel.
See, and I can see that, because my point with this is like, why would they keep records that are not transactional?
I guess, yeah.
But you're right, it is weird that there are missing records that are transactional, but also, fingers crossed, I know where the title to my car is.
Yeah, that's true.
But like, that's how they're viewing human beings.
Yeah, it's
insane.
Gross. We do know, though, that Nathaniel Hunt was Patsy's enslaver both the first and second time she ran away, but the first time was on June 22nd, 1808. Patsy was 16 years old when she would escape the plantation and hunt for the first time.
Oh my God.
So for those who haven't looked into slavery and things, escaping slavery back then, or probably in general, was so dangerous that experts that work in the history of the Underground Railroad often talk about why and many enslaved men and women chose not to escape. A lot of them felt they were physically incapable of making this journey. It was very hard. Like, and these were people that worked in fields all day. So like, but it was very hard. You're traveling at night, probably like in any weather. It doesn't matter. You're usually either on your own or with only one or two other people traveling through country you don't know, and hoping that when you get to where you're supposed to be going, the right people are there and you're not just immediately going to get sent back to where you came from.
Well, and you're traveling at night and there's no fucking light.
I'd get so fucking lost.
And you're not, like, there's no path, there's no trail. You're like going through woods and fields. And also, like, I think the idea of people toiling and doing this hard labor all day, every day makes it even harder to escape, because there's no way you are getting the proper nutrition as an enslaved person to like do all of that work and then have enough energy and like reserves to engage on this insane journey on foot while people are literally hunting you.
Oh yeah. So that was part of it. Others were just, they didn't want to leave their families or see their families punished because they ran. Others were unsure of how they'd make a living or what they would do if they did escape, because they were like, well, if I leave, then I literally have nothing, and what do I do?
It was so, I mean, enslavement was about subjugation on every level. People were actively not given an education because, well, education means freedom. Education means knowledge and the ability to fight back. You know, again, people are being malnourished, so they don't have the energy to run away.
Yeah.
People are being beaten and murdered and permanently disfigured to not only discourage that individual, but other people from attempting to leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, Daughters of the Confederacy. Tell me again how enslaved people like loved it.
Right. They definitely all wanted it.
Get fucked so hard. I have no patience.
Like I mentioned, Patsy was 16 when she ran away. And the first time she ran away, Nathaniel waited 10 months before publishing something looking for her. This ad was a lot less detailed. It was literally just run away on the 22nd of June last, because remember, this is 10 months later. A bright mulatto woman named Piety. She has a scar under one of her eyes occasioned by a fall, which I love that he had to add that, because let's all be honest, it probably wasn't by a fall. You know, she ran into a door.
Like,
he probably
it's
abused
weird.
her.
Yeah, no, it's weird
like,
that he's
that's such a weird detail.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
You're like, I wasn't suspicious until you added that.
Yeah.
And now I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
And then, just kind of continued describing her upper 40, somewhat decayed, rather slim, but tall for her age. $10 reward if found in Franklin County, and double that if outside its bounds. So much less detailed. It's like this was the more common, where it was just like, they ran away on this date. This is what they look like. This is how much I'll give you if you bring them back.
Yeah. Which also, this whole idea that you can read a description like that and then see someone in the real world and be like, you look really familiar based on this crappy newspaper ad I read. Like, that blows my mind.
For this one, it's like, 4 teeth, like upper teeth are somewhat decayed. Yeah, that's probably most people at this time. Rather slim made. Yeah, because you're starving your like, it's just like, how many women of African American descent in towns that this would go out in would look like that?
I also love tall for her age. Like, wait, you're pretty tall. How old are you?
Yeah, exactly.
30. Oh, okay. You're appropriately heighted for your age.
Right.
You can't be that. Like, it's so fucking weird, and none of it makes sense because it was never meant to make sense.
Nope. So I'm assuming the first thing she did, or if not the first thing, one of the very first things she did was shed the name Piety, because 1, it was chosen for her by her enslaver, but 2, it's a really obvious name. Like, there probably wasn't a ton of Pieties back then. Even back then,
shit name. It is a shit
not a
name.
fan. So, like I said, she would take Patsy Young as her name, and she would build a life for herself as an entrepreneur, a free woman, and eventually a wife and a mother. So when she fled,
I love that.
I know. When she fled, she did so at great risk. As I mentioned, there were a lot of reasons people didn't flee. One of the other reasons that I didn't mention is because the penalty for fleeing, if you did get caught, were often very horrific. You would, a lot of times, even if you didn't flee, if you just did something wrong, be whipped, branded, maimed, really any of those. Certain states allowed enslavers to punish people that repeatedly escaped by severing fingers, toes, ears, testicles, or cutting their Achilles tendons and hamstrings so they couldn't run at all.
No.
I can imagine which states those were. I'm looking at you, southern states.
Well,
yeah. All
like,
I can think of whenever I hear like cutting the Achilles tendon is the movie House of Wax, where Paris Hilton is like creeping along a catwalk and the murderer like reaches up and like cuts her Achilles tendon through the catwalk. It's horrible because you literally can't run when someone does that.
I have never seen that movie, and now I never will. I was thinking the bit in Pet Sematary.
Oh, yep, that would do it too. Yeah.
Yeah. That grosses me out. I feel like I just watched someone get their Achilles tendon slammed in a car door. I'm like, I feel very vulnerable around my ankles right now.
Right? You're like, I don't trust you. Like, I mean, I get why they called the Achilles tendon because it's a weak spot.
Oh.
Anyways, so yeah, she fled, one, knowing like the potential risks of getting caught, but two, like anything that might happen, like the strenuousness of running. So one of the things Teresa was able to find out through the detailed second record is we know that Patsy fled to the north, which makes a lot of sense because north there were bigger towns, there was the coast, there was a lot more like development going on, just a lot more opportunities to maybe like blend in or escape.
Well, also the northern states were the freer states.
Oh, she didn't go that far north.
Okay.
She still stayed in North
okay.
Carolina. We'll get into that.
She
didn't go that far north, but I think she gave herself like the chance in case she needed to. But yeah, she didn't actually end up going that far. And I think that's kind of, for me, one of the funny aspects of the fact that this guy didn't catch her for 16 years and she wasn't all that far away. But we'll get to it. So one of the reasons we know this is the second part of the second ad that I didn't put in the beginning is that he talks about, oh, she spent time when she was running away in Halifax and Rock Landing, and I am informed that she cooked for the hands employed on the canal, and she spent some time in Plymouth. And I'm like, how did you find all of this out? It's beside the point.
Like, did he read her journals later?
I don't know.
Like, what the fuck?
I know. But, and so, yeah, the thing to note is all of these places he names, Halifax, Rock Landing, the canal was like the Roanoke Canal, and then Plymouth. The farthest one from the plantation she had been raised on was 100 miles. So she was all like, if those are the only places she went, she was always within 100 miles. Which is I mean,
still,
granted, it's far, but it's not that far.
Yeah, because like I went backpacking with Egg and his family. I think it was like last year. 2 miles. Yeah. Doesn't seem like a lot. That's like what I jog on my lunch break. But hiking through the muddy woods with a giant backpack, 2 miles is like a shit ton. And that's on a path that's like cleared for you.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's far, but it's not that far because it's like it was probably far for Patsy because she's on foot, traveling at night, stuff like that. It's not that far for Nathaniel Hunt to find her though. So it's funny that he didn't, at least for a while.
Well, that's
why I think that's why I'm like, it's far, but it's not that far.
It must also be pretty far for him. I mean, can you imagine
at least, like,
taking a
roads
like
and horses and
mile road trip though, looking for someone that he probably barely knew what she looked like?
That's true, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, the canal that's mentioned is through records the Roanoke Canal and the Roanoke River because that was just beginning in 1819, and possibly maybe one of the reasons Patsy went north is because she knew there'd be this big congregation of workers and stuff like working on this. And honestly, Patsy kind of took to what she knew. And you know, he mentions in the article that she cooked for them, and that's exactly what she did. And I'm guessing like That's probably what she did on the plantation. You know, often women, and especially like younger women, were often the houseworkers. And so I love that, like, she took what she learned from her enslavers and was like, you know what, I'm going to use this to gain my freedom.
I love that too, because like we were talking about earlier, disenfranchisement and being like, no, you literally can't do anything else. We're not going to give you that opportunity.
We're not going to train else.
You. And that she's able to use those domestic skills that her enslavers appreciate so much.
Yep.
For her freedom.
Yeah. And I think Patsy recognized that too and saw the opportunity of like, you know what, they think they didn't train me in anything, and they really did. Especially like if she did go to the town of Halifax, which was at the time like a regional center. It was very like socially active in all of this stuff. And remember, he even said in his article, she's an excellent seamstress, can make women's and men's clothes, can cook and weave. And then he also mentions the odd part is she's a good cake baker and beer brewer, because she probably wasn't brewing beer on the plantation. And he even says like that's what she earned her living from. So unfortunately, we don't have any like direct records of like this is what Patsy brewed and where. But the fact that he even mentioned it really gives us insight into how well she must have done if he thought she brewed well enough that someone could recognize her for it.
Okay, I'm just going to say 10 out of 10, someone who can bake cakes and brew beer.
Right?
I would never be able to date them because it would completely ruin my life. I would be a cake-stuffed, beer-drunken, like, rock of a woman.
Yeah, me too, don't
but
worry.
That's amazing. But yeah, no, I think it is interesting that it was a skill that she had acquired and was good enough at where he was like, this is notable.
Yep. Well,
because again, his first description of her is like, black lady, question mark?
Yeah, bad teeth, kind of tall.
Like scar that I definitely had nothing to do with.
Yeah, definitely not. She fell.
Fucking A. She fell into a door.
So, yeah, like I said, the fact that he acknowledged it is huge. And I also want to point out, like, brewing beer back then is not what brewing beer is now. So, you know, like, especially like COVID and stuff, like, there was this big trend of like, oh, be your own microbrewery, brew at home. That was the standard back then. Like, yeah, there were taverns and yeah, there were stuff like that, but like they usually only made like cider or stronger alcohols because during this time, one, like the availability of things needed to brew beer was hard to come by, especially in like the New Englandy area. So, and there's a lot of apples there, so they tended to go for cider. But two, like, usually the people that were doing it were like the farmers that were already growing the grains, and then they would just brew beer at home, and that would be that. Like, it wasn't a huge commodity the way it is now. And so the fact that, yeah, she was doing it in a way that people, like, again, that people would recognize her for, and that she would have a reputation for it is surprising.
I do appreciate there were different types of people during the pandemic. There were the bread makers and the beer brewers.
Yep.
And there was
we all
me
went
who
back
did
to our roots.
neither.
I didn't brew beer. I made bread.
You made bread. You were a bread gal.
I was a bread gal.
You were a bread girl.
So I would also like to highlight, like, it wasn't just New England, but brewing in general in the early United States struggled a lot. One of the things that they suffered from was a shortage of strong bottles, because remember, like, beer is highly fermented, but unlike wine that kind of runs out its fermentation process while still in a keg, beer really doesn't. And so, like, there needs to be a certain level of strength in the glass. Like, I've had it happen in a wine bottle, actually, that there was a little bit too much yeast left in it, and it shatters bottles.
Oh shit.
It's why beer bottles are so much thicker. Like, if you've ever noticed that, like, beer bottles are thick, and that's why, because there's a lot of pressure inside of them. They need to be strong enough to hold it.
See, I thought it was so they could give me less beer but charge me more.
No. Well,
like too much air in a chip bag.
But yeah, so like they hadn't quite, at least in the United States, they hadn't quite figured out mass producing the style of bottles needed for beer.
Which is so interesting because when I think of beer, I especially think of like the United Kingdom and how people drank beer instead of water because water would kill you and beer was healthy.
Well, clearly the United Kingdom figured it out. That or they were just brewing at larger scales than the U.S. was.
Yeah.
Both of which is probably possible. Also, the U.S. had a weird shortage of cork to seal the bottles because, you know, back then we didn't have crimping machines and stuff. But yeah, apparently cork trees didn't do well in the soil they had planted them in. So there was a cork shortage. And I'm like, of course there was. It's just funny. But also, in general, back then, procuring barley in particular, like the main grain besides hop used in beer, was also pretty hard, like either unless you knew a barley farmer or you were a barley farmer. And distilled spirits, you know, your stronger alcohols, have a longer shelf life than beer. So most people were just like, well, why wouldn't I just make that and then I can just like leave it and it doesn't matter, you know?
See, when I first started drinking, I was also very like that. I'm like, why the hell would I waste my time with beer when hard alcohol is an option? It's going to get me where I want to be a hell of a lot faster than
cheaper too.
The Bud Lights. Which, like, Sophia, seriously, you've just turned 21. Don't fucking waste your time with Michelob Ultra and Bud Light and Miller and all of that stuff. I think
I just don't drink beer.
One of the first legal beverages I ever purchased, it was when I was in Scotland where the drinking age is 18. I didn't know what to get. And the only drinks I really knew, like other than Manhattan, which was my family drink, which I was like, I don't know if that, like, this is the place to get a Manhattan. You know, I'm like, oh crap, I can't think of what to get. I don't want to get something too girly. So I just ordered a Bud Light. I didn't even finish it. It was awful. It was terrible, fucking terrible. Sophia, don't waste your time. You can drink wherever the hell you want.
I think the first legal drink I ordered, actually, no, it wasn't in England because my mom wouldn't sign the form saying I could drink, even though I was of legal drinking age in England. I was not of legal drinking age in the United States. And my mom was like, you don't need to do that. And I was like, you suck.
My mom probably wouldn't have let me either.
Because I wasn't in college, like, because I went between the year between when I graduated and when I started college. But I get it, Mom. But I think the first one thing I ever ordered was a cider, like a hard cider.
See,
that I do recommend.
I started figuring my shit out when I was in Scotland. And yeah, ciders were really big there. Oh, yeah. So that became kind of my jam. Strongbow and black currant was really good. Like Strongbow is a cider, and then they just put black currant juice because apparently that's something that they just have at every bar in Scotland. And I'm just like, oh my God, I love you people.
I think here it's seasonal.
Yeah. But you know, you find what you like. You're gonna drink some stuff that sucks, and you're gonna learn that it sucks, and not to drink it again. And then you're gonna drink some stuff that sucks, and then like 10 years later, you're gonna be like, oh wait, I actually like this now.
That probably won't happen with Bud Light, but you know, other things you may come around to.
Yeah.
Anyways,
like red wine.
Yeah, we don't know what Patsy used for ingredients, or even where she brewed or how, but we do know that she clearly brewed well enough and made cakes well enough to sustain herself through her nearly 15 years of freedom and potentially beyond. So that's my very, very short Patsy brewing thing, but we're not done in the story. But that was all I have for brewing because we don't have the records of what she did.
I want to drink her beer.
I know
right now.
So in 1820, when Patsy was about 28, so about 12 years after she ran away from Nathaniel, she gave birth to her daughter. She named her Eliza. That's right. Patsy got to choose the name because no enslaver had any say because she wasn't owned right now. I mean, I guess technically she was owned, but whatever. Patsy named her daughter
She had
Eliza,
escaped.
and I love that name.
I love the name Eliza. I was talking with someone at a local networking thing, and she was telling me about her baby Eliza, and she's like, it's after my 2 favorite musicals. And I was like, oh, is it Hamilton and My Fair Lady? And she's like, how the fuck did you know that? I'm like, I have a lot of theater friends.
Yeah.
And I love Hamilton.
Yeah.
But that Eliza's
just
a
a great
beautiful name.
It is. Yeah. And the thing I found kind of funny about this, and I'm like slapping the face to Nathaniel, but if when Eliza was born, she lived in Halifax County, like Nathaniel estimates, she would have only been less than 50 miles from the plantation where she had been enslaved. So I'm like, haha, fuck you, Nathaniel. Anyways.
I bet that felt like a whole world away, though.
I hope so. And I do want to say, like, Patsy and her daughter Eliza, they would not have been an oddity in Halifax or Halifax County during this time. It would have been unique still. There was only about 142 free women of color within the county's population of 17,200, but it it's not like she was the only one.
It wasn't like
for a
she
lot of
rolled
white
up.
slave owners, they probably all look the same. So being 1 in 142 is better than being 1.
Well, yeah, it's not like she rolled up to the small town where the same 5 families have been living and reproducing and kind of interbreeding. And then a black woman rolls up and they're like, we've literally never seen a black person before.
Yeah, exactly. So even after 12 years and a young daughter now in tow, Patsy's existence was still one of constant risk. Probably one of always looking over her shoulder, worrying that someone may turn her in out of spite, worrying that she might run into Nathaniel, or that someone might just be like, you know what, you look like you're up to no good, because that can happen.
Oh,
But
yeah, no, being a freed black person was only as good as other people not dragging you back into enslavement or into enslavement period, a la 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Like, again, even as a free black person, you were always at risk, which is horrifying.
But despite that risk, Patsy decided to take another step just for herself. And on June 15th, 1822, she got married. She married a man named Ackle Johnston, who was a free man of color in Halifax. And their marriage slip is actually preserved by the Halifax County Register's deeds and is now digitized. And so, like, there is this tangible paper in existence that shows a choice that Patsy got to make of her own free will. That her and Ackle stood over this piece of paper with 2 witnesses, just literally showing their love for each other and wanting that to be made permanent. You know, it has nothing to do with her body or her labor or someone owning her. It is her making this choice to be here with this man and identifying herself with the name she chose legally on this piece of paper.
What's also really amazing is that, as you said, a lot of the documentation that we have on this person is transactional. It's who she has been willed to.
Yeah.
Or
gross.
People posting ads to get her back because they view her as their property. And even though I'm not going to say marriages in the 1800s weren't transactional.
No.
This is finally a legal document recording her life where it's entirely like, this is her.
Exactly.
This
like
is
in the
just
purest
her.
form. And it's
This
funny
has
because, like,
nothing to do with other people victimizing her.
Well, and how many times in stories have we been annoyed that we're like, and there was no record of this woman until she married her husband, you know? But for once, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad there's a marriage certificate so that we can have this proof that, like, she got to do something for herself.
Oh, my God.
She was 30 years old when she got married. Her daughter was 2, and the wedding took place almost 14 years to the day that she had run away. And I like to think she did that intentionally.
That's like her new birthday, basically.
Yeah. So Patsy and Ackle would be married. They'd rent a house. unfortunately, less than a year into their marriage, Nathaniel would find her.
God
no record.
damn it, Nathaniel.
Yeah. There's no record on how she was found, whether it was some jealous neighbor or Nathaniel just walking around and finding it. No one knows. But on June 1st, 1823, Patsy was captured at her home that she shared with Ackle, a farm that he was leasing. And of course, because a child's condition follows the mother, Nathaniel also took Eliza.
Oh my God. Was she like...
She
was
was
like 3 years old.
Yeah, 3 to 4. And remember, Eliza had never known slavery at all. He's literally taking someone that was never a slave just because their mom was a slave and just being like, yep, you're mine now. I
just want everyone to imagine officials coming to your home and taking you and your 3-year-old away.
Yep.
And your 3-year-old has no fucking idea what is going on or why, but you know, as the parent,
just
that they're about to enter literal hell.
Yeah.
And
I can only imagine
away from everything they've ever known and been like, by the way, you're not a person.
Yeah. I can only imagine that Patsy probably fought like hell to try to not have Eliza arrested with her. And Ackle probably did too. But yeah, so we know they were arrested in Halifax County. So he brought them 50 miles west back to Franklin County, where he told the Franklin County court, even though there was no record of sale or anything else, that Patsy and Eliza had been put up for sale as slaves, and he had purchased them and was bringing them home. So that's what he told them. He told them a lie. Because even though, like, yes, technically Patsy had been his slave, a lot of people probably would have been like, there's no way you can prove 14 years later that this is the same person. And so he had to make up a story.
It was the same person.
Yeah. So he had to make up a story to be like, nope, these are legally mine.
Whenever other slaveholders are like, hey man, that's a little sketch. You know you're like super in the wrong.
Yeah. But to Nathaniel, all that mattered is that he had recovered one slave, and at that time actually recovered 2. Patsy wasn't one to wait around, though, especially when she had a daughter in tow. And only 14 months after being taken back into slavery, Patsy ran again. This time taking Eliza with her.
Fucking
obviously,
good for
she wasn't
her.
going to leave her daughter there. This time, Mr. Hunt wasted very little time. I think he only waited like 10 days instead of 10 months. And he published an ad, the ad that I read part of, in the Raleigh Register. He didn't publish it once or twice. He published it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 times over the course of 3 months. Like, he desperately wanted her back. Probably because now he's like, well, she knows how to make a living. Like, I think he knew, like, I'm probably not getting her back this time unless I get her back, like, now.
I think this is also a dig to his, like, sense of manhood.
Oh, yeah, probably. Like, oh, you just got her back and you couldn't keep her? Her and a little girl?
Yeah. I just had this image that popped into my head of, like I used to work with 3-year-olds, and they've got, like, a lovey or a blanket or a toy that gives them comfort. And I'm just imagining, like, poor little Eliza having something that gave her comfort during the scary time that was taken away from her.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like our listeners get it, but in a world that feels increasingly cut
scary
off from empathy and just being able to see other human beings as human beings, I just want people to have that image of you go like someone comes to your house
taken away from everything
and they take you and your 3-year-old and she's crying and you're trying to explain to her that it's gonna be okay, and they take her little bunny toy or whatever, and she doesn't understand what the fuck is going on, and she's not gonna she's never gonna fully understand it. People are literally being disappeared in our country right now, and it just feels like even more we have to point out, like, these are human beings.
Yeah.
Stop justifying it.
And unfortunately, disappear is exactly what Patsy and Eliza did, but I'm hoping in a very different and positive way, because on August 8th, so 12 days before he ran the ad, that is when Patsy and Eliza stepped off the plantation and never returned that we know of. There is no evidence to his success or failure in capturing her. He ran the ad 9 times and then we just don't hear anything else. And there's no records of Patsy either. And so in my headcanon, because remember, he was also looking for Ackle, which means Ackle wasn't arrested when Patsy and Eliza were, because he was a free man. But that also means he wasn't arrested for harboring a slave. Because why would you want him captured if he was already arrested? You know, like...
Right.
So he told us that much. So in my headcanon, Ackle met up with them, and they actually went north this time. And that is my headcanon, and that is what I'm saying happened, and nobody else can tell me anything different, because nobody else has proof that anything different happened. So therefore, that is what happened.
I absolutely need to believe that.
Yes, that is what we're believing.
I absolutely need to believe
because
that.
Ackle was in trade. He was like he had rented the farm. He was farming. He knew river work. That's what he had previously. And you know, Patsy could brew and bake cakes, and so they made it.
I have to believe they did, and I also have to imagine that Patsy has descendants.
Yeah.
Ancestors. Going the other way, descendants that are still alive today.
Yeah.
And do they know that this is their family history? That this is their, like Patsy's, I don't fucking think so energy. Patsy's like, I'm going to make a life for myself. Oh, things went wrong. You're not keeping me. Yeah. I'm not taking Right.
I'm not going to sit here and take this.
But we've talked about this before, how especially Black Americans have had a lot of their history stolen from them because their history is rooted in enslavement, and everything before that, it's like,
yeah.
You know, like doing a family tree is a lot harder when, you know, your family has literally been bought and sold by other people.
Yeah, and there just might not be any records of it.
It's crazy. And that's why I really love the idea when Black folks call each other like brother and sister, because they have this, there's an uncertainty in your heritage, but through that, it's like, no, we're all in this together. We're all family. And I like the idea that people can be like, no, Patsy's my grandma. Patsy's my great grandma. I heard her story. She is a part of my family now. And I am inheriting what she has taught me from her story.
Yep. So yeah, the article written by Teresa that has a more detail, more like, I very much focused on Patsy's story, and she goes more into like what times were like and what beer brewing might have been like and stuff like that. So if you want to read a more in-depth story, it's literally just called Patsy Young, American Brewer, Fugitive Slave. And Oak Park Brewery also a few years ago had made a beer named after her. It is not like available or anything anymore. And in fact, between Sunday and today, the page on their website that used to list the beer is no longer works. And I have questions.
You bastards!
because I'm a little suspicious of that. Just with everything else, like people just erasing people off their like Facebooks and stuff. I'm like why? But it does still show.
I want
if you
beer, Kelley.
Oh, I was just about to say, like, if you Google it, like if you Google her name, a picture of the beer can still shows up. But the link to the beer does not work, which is sad. But yeah, if you go to Patsy Young, American brewer, fugitive slave, or you just Google Patsy Young, all the first links that come up are about her, which include like the one by Teresa and then the podcast. So yeah, that's Patsy Young.
I also love that this follows a trend that we're seeing a lot in modern day of learning about the historical origin of things and realizing, no, it wasn't white dudes the whole time.
Oh yeah.
That like some things that are so quintessential in like white dude bro culture were actually originally done by women of color, queer folk. Like
beer brewing in particular is one that there is a lot of roots back in African culture, and so they're like, there is a good chance that is where it came from in the Americas. And a lot of brewing, because remember, it was done in small batches on homes. Who would have been doing stuff like that? The slaves. And so yeah, a lot of the early beer brewing, and I told Emily I'm gonna have to do like a Herstory happening on this now, because I am actually, it's really fascinating that like, yeah, they kind of just erased that history and was like, no, it's always been white dudes doing this. It's like, no,
white dudes
actually,
with handlebar mustaches.
Yeah, there's a long history of Black women and beer. So, but yeah,
that's amazing. Even before that, like, some people think that the archetypes we have for witches, like the hats, the cauldrons, the cats, are because women brewed
alcohol.
beer.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, Emily, I hope your story's more uplifting. I mean, like, we're wishing a happy ending on mine, but I hope yours is more uplifting than mine is.
I am manifesting a happy ending with yours. Mine is a bit of a roller coaster.
Oh, okay.
So today I am whining about Danuta Danielsson, the woman with the handbag.
Ooh, I like handbags too. It's a beautiful name.
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant handbag was a beautiful name. I'm like, Kelley, that's not her name.
No, I like handbags, and Danuta is a beautiful name.
I'm like, Kelley, I just need to make sure you understand her name is not handbag.
Dang it.
So last week, I talked about the viral photo of the Pickle Sisters, whom may never have been. This week, I'm talking about another viral photo. Ooh. However, this time, we have most of the story behind it.
Ooh, we're unveiling the mystery.
Yes. And this is less about, we have no idea. And this is more about like, we have some idea.
Yeah. We have the idea that we were able to get.
So really quick, I am going to be trying to pronounce Swedish and Polish. And I'm going to be doing a great disservice to all my Polish ancestors because I'm going to struggle. So linguistic butchery abounds. There were so many videos, y'all. So many videos that I watched. And I'm still like, how do you do that with your mouth? So picture it. Vicur. Or as it's spelled, Vaxjo. Sweden. They're not going to take me anymore. Seriously, I'm going to like try a flee to Sweden. They're going to be like,
remember your pronunciation of this? You're not welcome here.
Pronounce Vaxjo, bitch. I mean, like, just shoot me now. I can't do it.
I guess I'm leaving then.
So Sweden, April 13th, 1985.
Okay.
The Nordic Realm Party, a group of skin-headed neo-Nazis, are marching through the city center, complete with flags, Nazi salutes, and calls for the mass extermination of most people. I mean, seriously, who don't the Nazis fucking hate?
like the only people they don't hate are themselves, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure they also hate themselves. They're just not as vocal about it.
You don't become a Nazi if you like
and not
yourself.
hate yourself. Yeah,
if
exactly.
you're okay with yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, why can't you hate yourself like most people and then just like make it into jokes and crippling low self-esteem? Why do you have to turn it into genocide? Just fucking monsters. So for anyone who is unfamiliar or who has to argue with that relative that they lost to Fox News, neo-Nazism is a post-World War II militant and political movement trying to reinstate Nazi ideology. Really, it's just a modern continuation of the Nazi bullshit that we thought we had dealt with the global conflict. And like it's kind of a new movement, but it's like
not.
Abso-fucking-lutely not. It's just kind of
it's like
modernized
they try to
with
say
the
they're
times.
new movement, but it's like you're not. You're using the same ideals and rhetoric and bullshit.
Yeah,
that they did back then to justify mass genocide, which is never okay and never will be okay.
Yeah, like a huge part of their rhetoric is the Fourth Reich. It's like, no, this is just a continuation of the stuff that we thought we had dealt with a global conflict.
Right, exactly.
Like everyone,
you're literally,
seriously,
like your idols are the people that were involved in that conflict.
I hope your grandfather who fought in World War II is proud of you now.
Yeah.
You son of a... Anyway.
Yep.
So their ideology is founded in white supremacy and the hatred and extermination of non-white people, Jews, Muslims, non-Christians in general, Christians too, if they're not the right kind of Christian. Like, I'm pretty sure they're not into the Catholics.
Yeah.
A lot of people are not into the Catholics. Immigrants, people with disabilities, the LGBTQ plus community, women, and as I said, most other people. It blows my mind that a group who is founded in the ideology of murdering most everyone else on the planet is somehow alive. Like, how do you get people down with that? It doesn't make sense because it was never meant to make sense. Neo-Nazis have diversified in their branding. They've inaccurately co-opted Nordic imagery. They splinter into different organizations with either like super boring names like We White, We Good, Nazi Party, or like these 13-year-old edgelord names where it's like, calm down, AOL Instant Messenger emo kid. So they've got their own flags and more. And it's kind of crazy because these are the same people who are like, I can't keep up with all of these sexual orientations and pronouns, but they have thousands of different organizations to say, I am a piece of human garbage.
Yeah. Yeah. They just like announcing it. They just like being like, I suck. And here's me publicly letting everyone know that I suck.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It boggled my mind that there were neo-Nazis when I was a child, and it boggles my mind that they are as influential as they are now. That like we're seeing this stuff, and it's like, I'm sorry, Elon Musk can just do a little Heil Hitler and we're like, that's not what he meant. I'm sorry. Like, we all know what that salute looks like. It's not an accident.
Exactly.
So this is an ideology rooted in violence, murder, and genocide. And not even hypothetically. We saw this in practice. There is no such thing as a nice or a peaceful Nazi. Their ideology is not a different political stance, but rather a violent desire for domination by way of mass murder. We don't have political differences. We have a difference in thinking that you think that like people should be murdered, and I think that's a bad thing. Yeah. So now that we've gotten that out of the way,
now that we understand everyone's ideological differences.
Now that we understand that Nazis are not like a legitimate political ideology. They're just a bunch of organized murderers.
Yeah.
This shit parade was approved by local authorities and held in response to a speech given by a far left party communist leader. So like the Nazis hate the communists hate the Nazis. Like, again, it's interesting because it's like when you get too far on one side of the political spectrum, it's like, aren't you guys like both shitty and super awful? But in like your own unique and not that unique ways. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so the whole affair was incredibly intense with skirmishes breaking out between the two groups. But one act of resistance against the Nazis was captured on camera by photographer Hans Runeson.
Good job, Hans.
Hans for the win. That sweet little shutterbug. Young skin-headed piece of shit, Seppo Saluska, marches with a Swedish flag. Because again, like nationalism and
they like to
national
co-opt
purity.
nationalism, and I hate that because it's like, okay, our entire country does not stand for this.
I hate that,
and I'm
when
not
I see,
okay with you doing that.
I hate that when I see a rally with an American flag, I'm like, I tense up because I'm like, crap.
Yeah, it's like, which kind of rally is this?
Yes, because even in the United States, Nazis and the KKK. They love the American flag. They love to include it in their whole deal because they're like, we're the real Americans. And I'm like,
no.
Y'all are literally the fucking worst that humanity has to offer.
Yeah. Yep.
So this shithead, he's marching with a Swedish flag, being a dumb piece of shit, when suddenly he takes a handbag to the back of his skinhead. And Kelley, I'm going to ask you to look up the picture. If you just look Danuta Danielsson, because it is quite an incredible photo.
This is one of those like perfect, you always see those like perfectly timed photos. This is a perfectly timed photo because it's right before the main event happens.
Yeah, like the purse
and I love it.
Maybe made contact with his head and he hasn't realized it, or it's about to.
I think it's about to. And yeah, like he's completely oblivious. He's doing his own thing and she's just very like strong stance, angry. You could tell she put like her whole weight behind this handbag. It is beautiful. I want this hanging in my house.
Yeah, her form on this swing is truly masterful.
Oh, yeah.
So the attacker was, as we've alluded to, 38-year-old Polish Jew Danuta Danielsson. Really quick timeout. I've read a lot about there's a little bit of controversy between calling someone a Jew versus saying they are Jewish. Unfortunately, to call someone a Jew has been used in a lot of negative ways. So some people prefer Jewish because it doesn't have that association. But at the same time, to be a Jew is not a bad thing. So why would we? So right. if I refer to someone as a Jew, it's because I subscribe to the ideology that being a Jew or Jewish is not a bad thing. It shouldn't be a slur or a negative. I do understand other people have different stances on that. I'm open to learn and grow, but I did do my homework on this. So Danuta Sen was born in March of 1947 in Gorzow Wielkopolski. There we go. As one of 3 children. Her mother was a Holocaust survivor who had been imprisoned in either Auschwitz or Majdanek concentration camp.
Yeah, I can't imagine just the trauma she witnessed in her mom having gone through that. Because no one that survived was ever the same.
No.
And the horrors they witnessed, even if they never talked about them, because a lot of them didn't, just to see what that did to her.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
I'm just going to let everyone know we really don't know a lot about her mother. I have so many questions.
Yeah.
And I'll get into it. We really don't know a lot about Danuta's upbringing either. So in 1981, Danuta's mother met a man named Bjorn Benson Danielsson at a jazz festival in Poland. I want to know what a jazz festival in Poland is like. Take me there now,
that sounds
please.
like it would be fun.
Nothing sounds more delightful than a Polish jazz festival. That is all I want. So she meets this guy at a Polish jazz festival. They're married the same year and they moved to Sweden in 1982. And Danuta goes with them. And at this point, like, Danuta is a grown woman. I don't know anything about her other siblings. I don't know why, as a grown woman, she followed her mother and her new husband to Sweden. I don't know why she took her mother's husband's last name. I have a lot of questions. And unfortunately, I don't have the answers.
Dang it, Emily, you're supposed to have the answers, because now I have questions.
I have more answers than I did for the Pickle Sisters, but the bar is so low. It's basically buried
you had, like,
6 feet
nothing
underground.
for the Pickle Sisters. Yeah, exactly.
So we don't know much about Danuta's upbringing or who her father was. We don't know what her aspirations were or why she followed her mother and her mother's new husband, whose last name she would take, to Sweden. What we do know is that this Jewish woman, whose mother was a Holocaust survivor, knew exactly what to do when she saw a fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
An article by
This thing
La
I would like to
Sexta.
do when I see them.
Right? So an article by La Sexta, which means the sixth in Spanish, wrote, quote, "The neo-Nazi was humiliated by everything he hated." Because she's a woman, she's an immigrant, and she's a Jew.
Yep.
They hate all of those
literally
things.
everything. Like, top of his hit list.
Yeah, like, if she was black or, like, not white, oh my God. He probably just would have died from, like, self-loathing shame because he's a fucking piece of shit. So the anti-fascists who had been protesting against the Nazis were emboldened by Danuta's handbagging, and they began throwing eggs at the Nazis, tearing down the Swedish flags they dared to carry, and chased them out of the city center.
Yeah.
The neo-Nazis fled to the train station, where police had to escort them away to prevent them from being beaten to absolute shit by the crowd.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing your job, but you really couldn't have been like, "Oh my God, look what's over there. I'm so interested in this rock, and I'm not looking in this direction towards the neo-Nazis and the egg-throwing crowd approaching them."
Yep.
Anyway.
Do you hear those cries for help? No, I don't. Nope, nothing over here.
No, it's like it's a bird, right?
Yeah. It's clearly a seagull.
Yeah. Oh, God, those things sound awful and a little racist somehow.
Yeah.
So the iconic moment where Danuta clocked Saluska on the back of the head was captured by photographer Hans Runesson, who had been there to document the demonstrations. Published on the front page of the Swedish National I was so close. Swedish National Newspaper. I was so close to saying that without fucking up.
Yeah.
Seashells by the she-whore. Right?
Sure.
It's
Yes.
I've been drinking. It's fine. Don't worry about
It's
it.
fine.
So it was published in the Swedish National Newspaper the next day with the title, "A Woman Hitting a Neo-Nazi with Her Handbag," in case there was any confusion as to what was happening in the photo.
Yeah.
The photo was a sensation, with other publications picking up the story. Hans also got photos of the crowd, like, pelting the neo-Nazis with eggs, which I'm just like, love it. For the gram. Just like, do you think LA filter would really bring out the yellow in the eggs against their fucking
100%.
skinheads? Like, So, though Danuta was only 38 at the time, which I refuse to consider old because I'm a lot closer to 38 than I would like to admit, she was called tant, or old lady, by the Swedish public. And like, this wasn't the insult.
And
that
I'm like, how mad do I need to be at them calling her that?
Like, I get it,
Not
because in
mad
the
at
photo,
all.
she definitely, like, her outfit, her stance,
It's
her
the
hair, she kind of
haircut.
looks like an old lady.
Yeah, maybe not old lady, but like older. She definitely looks older than her age.
1980s 38.
That's true.
Is very
It's
different from 2025 38 also.
Yeah.
But tant in Swedish embodies the image of a woman with unstated wisdom, civil courage, and moral alignment. So, like,
Okay,
the
so
lady,
it's actually a good thing.
yeah, the lady who lives on your street who's like, I have seen too much shit to fucking
I'm not gonna
tolerate
stand for any
of
of this bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, hell no. I will hit you with my shoe and I will think nothing of it. So that's like the image. She's like, oh, fuck no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like the old lady energy I want to embody as I get older. I mean, I would love to be able to embody that energy right now while my joints are like at 50% capacity. So if anyone, for even a nanosecond, doesn't think that the man she hit, Seppo Saluska, didn't fucking deserve it, for any reason other than the fact that he was a neo-Nazi marching in public demanding for the murder of countless people, well, he was actually later arrested for torturing and murdering a gay Jewish man.
Okay, yeah, so he was definitely as awful as we assumed he was. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And unfortunately, he had the opportunity to prove what a monster he was.
Right.
I'm sorry, when someone is a Nazi, let's just believe them when they tell us that they're a murderer.
Yeah.
Because there's no separation. There's not a pacifist Nazi.
If they haven't murdered, they have the intent to murder.
100%.
Because it's literally part of their ideology.
Yes. So yeah, he's a straight up monster. He deserved, in my opinion, a lot more than a handbag to the head. I couldn't find a lot more information about this case or the man that he murdered, because obviously his story deserves to be told. He didn't deserve, like, it's just, it's so sad. It's so sad and it's so senseless.
Yeah.
So though, oh, sorry, I switched some paragraphs. So for decades, the identity of the woman with the handbag remained a mystery. Myths and legends filled the vacuum of unknowing, becoming more extreme as time went on. And Danuta knew she was the lady in the photo. She saw it and she's like, oh shit. But she never revealed this because she was so afraid of either being like prosecuted for assault by the Swedish government or having neo-Nazis try to hunt her down and murder her.
Yeah. I mean, that I would be more afraid of the second one.
100%. But I'm imagining.
Like, you already did it to my family once, so.
Like, I'm imagining today, if I went to a protest and smacked a neo-Nazi with my handbag, and that photo, like, was on the front page of national newspapers.
There's no way of escaping it.
I probably would never leave my house. Not because I did something wrong, but because I would be terrified.
Yeah.
I'd be terrified. So I said before that we don't know much about Danu's upbringing and personal life, but we do know that she struggled with her mental health. And it couldn't have been easy growing up in the wake of a global war, the genocide of her people, raised by someone who had suffered the horrors firsthand and was undoubtedly traumatized.
Oh, yeah. Well, and just a nation.
Yes.
A world that was traumatized.
Yes. And who knows what Danuta's mother had lost? Who knows what Danuta had stolen from her before she was even born? The family, the opportunities, just the feeling of safety. And any one of these things or something else entirely could have been weighing on Danuta's mind as she climbed Vicur's water tower in 1988. Yeah. And we're never going to know because Danuta jumped. And that fucking breaks my heart.
Yeah, because it's clear she was struggling, like, with whatever demons she had. And yeah, that, as someone who works with people, a lot of people struggling like that, it makes me so sad.
And us as individuals who have struggled with their mental health, I think it's you want to reach through time and like save people because you've been there. And it just, and the fact that we have lost so much of her story because she's not here anymore when she should be it's not fair. It's fucking not fair. And for anyone struggling with suicidal thoughts or ideation, like, we are mourning this woman who lost her life in 1988. People are going to mourn you in ways that you cannot even fucking imagine. Please do not do that to us.
Yeah.
We're going to be selfish and tell you not to do that to us.
Right.
So Danuta was gone, but her legend and legacy lived on, never forgotten by the people of Sweden. In 2014, good job, Sweden. Her identity was revealed along with talks of a statue being erected to commemorate her act of resistance. So the model of the statue was sculpted by artist Susanna Arwin and depicted Danuta in her iconic pose, legs like spread and anchored to the ground, and handbag flying through the air. It's just her with her flying handbag. It does not depict the piece of shit that she hit. Because it's not about him.
No, it's not at all.
It's never been about him. However, erecting an anti-Nazi statue wasn't as much of a no-brainer as, you know, maybe you think it should have been. Actually, nowadays, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can totally see why people were pissed about that. I don't agree with it, and I think it's stupid. But these things that were like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're not surprised by them anymore.
Yeah.
So city officials of Brewer were concerned that the statue glorified violence, with the city councilor stating, quote, "We can't accept that one can hit a person because one does not like him or her." And I agree with that sentiment. That's not what this was, though.
Nope.
And that is why I went on that whole fucking tirade before we even got to Danuta
how awful Nazis are.
What the fuck a Nazi is and a neo-Nazi. Because again, this is not a differing political opinion. This is fighting people who want you murdered.
Right, like, if anything, they're the ones that don't agree with anyone else.
They're the ones glorifying violence. With their
and
existence.
Danuta's just like, no. Basically, Danuta's like slapping like people, you don't do this. But, you know, like, there used to be that old thing that people would like hit dogs with newspapers when they did something bad.
Yeah.
That is what Danuta's doing. Danuta's like, stop being an idiot. Stop wanting to murder people. Bad neo-Nazi.
Like, not that I'd be mad. She did not take a gun and put it to the back of this guy's head. She smacked him with her purse.
Right. Didn't even have a brick in it. God
fucking damn it. Why are we all so, like, anti-violence and tolerant when it comes to Nazis? Like,
also,
no.
How many other statues are there from wars of generals with weapons, like actual weapons, that exist in the world? And how is that not promoting violence? What is war if not agreeing with somebody else's ideology?
What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Say it again.
It's funny that you say that, because support for the statue swelled. And actually, I think resistance to the statue like made it even more popular, because people were like, we can't even agree on Nazis is bad? Like,
right, like, what is wrong with us?
Jesus.
Yeah.
So there was an op-ed written by a woman named Ola Luoto that read, quote, "She," referring to Danuta, "is unquestionably also one of Nazism's real victims. This is the downtrodden's reaction to racist violence." And it makes me think of like when women are assaulted and people are like, well, why didn't she fight back? Well, then we fight back and then we're demonized for it. It's like, okay, I don't care what you think anymore. I'm just going to fight back because nothing I do is good enough, but I'm going to defend myself.
Yeah.
So others pointed out the hypocrisy in refusing to have a statue of a woman wielding a purse, while there were plenty of statues of men with swords and guns dressed in military uniforms.
Yeah. Like, think of how many statues, like, are there of, like, a man brandishing a sword to the sky on, like, a rearing back horse? I would much rather see a woman, like, firmly planted with a good swing on a handbag. I would much rather see that.
You know what? Maybe she was just beating someone out of the way at one of those, like, Neiman Marcus pop-up sales.
Yeah. Maybe it was Black Friday. You don't know.
Yeah. Shit goes down on Black Friday. But yeah, it's like she's wielding a purse. Other people are wielding swords and guns on horseback.
Right.
Calm the fuck down.
Which of these is actually a weapon?
Yeah, calm the fuck down. So a handbag protest of an entirely different variety began. People across Sweden began hanging purses on public art sculptures. And like, Kelley, I'm going to ask you to look at my notes. There's one of a nun where she's kind of got her hand up and the purse is like hanging off her elbow.
It just like it's so perfect though. Like,
but
it looks like she's just like, now what, bitches? Like, that's what the nun looks like.
Yeah, she's like, I raiseth my hand and my tampons to God.
Yeah. I like the other one too, where it looks like she's
and
like,
my juicy
do you want a purse?
Gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other lady, she's got her hand kind of on the back of her hip. She's leaning forward, kind of with her other hand forward. Like,
she looks like she's offering the purse.
Yeah, she's like, may I offer you a purse in these trying times?
Yeah. I like this trend. Like,
I
this
love
should
it.
be a trend.
I love it. I want nothing more than, like, you know how you can get like tiny versions of famous statues to like put on your desk or whatever? Like, if you go to an art museum, they'll have like tiny recreations of like the thinker or the,
that would be great.
I want Danuta.
Yeah.
I want her picture. I actually might just print off her picture
and
frame it in my house because I need that energy in my life. So the city councilor later revealed that the council's primary reason to oppose the statue was that a living relative of Danuta had actually reached out to them, and she reported, a close relative has called us and has said he does not want Danielsson to be remembered that way. Yeah. And that's the only reason against the statue that I can remotely respect. Do I still want the statue and would support it? Abso-fucking-lutely.
Oh, yeah.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
I get it, though. You know, because I'm sure the family is
also
not wanting any backlash.
The hard thing is, like, in truth, the family might not actually know either, depending on, like, how open Danuta was about about that incident and everything prior to her death, you know, like, so we don't know what Danuta actually wanted, and we don't know, you know.
I also imagine it must be very difficult to have a daughter, a sister, a relative complete suicide, and then people are like, we're going to put up this statue of her.
Yeah, that would be hard.
There's a lot of complex feelings involved in there. Mm-hmm. And I do respect that. So, though Vecure had made it very clear that the statue would not stand in their city, other cities in Sweden began offering the statue a home. Oh. Finally, in September of 2015, the statue was purchased by Swedish entrepreneur Lasse Diding. I don't know. I'm saying everything wrong. I like Diding. It's Diding. I'm like, Diding. Like ka-ching.
Yeah,
I dig it.
I like it.
Is that how the Swedes say ka-ching? Diding. So he bought the statue and donated it to Verberg, who decided not to accept it. They're like,
okay,
thanks, but no thanks. So now the statue proudly stands in the garden of Deding's villa in Varberg. With
I like that he's like, I know you said no, but this is my house, so yes.
Exactly. He's like, oh, okay, the city doesn't want it. I'm still going to prominently display it in the city because it's in his garden, but it's like in the front yard where it's very plainly visible to everyone.
Kind of like how like when people have, like I think of like, it's not like at the end of his driveway, like, you know, like the like lion statues would be, but yeah, it's like right on the edge where it's like, it's very obvious.
Right. And I also love it because one of the ways that racists in the United States are preserving Confederate statues and actually building more are by putting them on private property, because then the city can't do anything about it. If you tear it down or vandalize it, you can be convicted of vandalizing private property. And he's taking that strategy and he's like, but fuck Nazis. So,
fuck Nazis.
There was a second statue that was unveiled in the town of All Saints. I think I'm saying that. I always think of like All Saints Lorraine.
Like when I read it, that's what I would say.
So Danuta Danielson's iconic act of resistance against genocidal maniacs has been immortalized not only in the famous photo and statues, but also as a minifigure by Bad Squiddo Games titled Anti-Fascist.
I want this minifigure.
So we know someone. He's a very popular YouTuber and creator who paints minifigures. I want to buy this minifigure and beg him to paint it for me so I can carry it everywhere with me for protection. But when I was Googling Danuta Danielsson, this eBay thing came up and I'm like, stop the fucking car now. What?
Yeah.
And it's the picture of her like legs spread, anchor, and she's like tossed in her purse. She's like, oh no, you fucking don't. So John Boy's got to get on that. So the story of Danuta Danielsson is frighteningly and unfortunately relevant. It's one of resisting genocidal murderers in whatever form that they take, however we can. What's really tragic is how little we know about Danuta as a person and her story outside of this photo and her tragic death. So in a previous episode, I talked about the Jewish tradition of saying, may his name be erased when speaking of a wicked person. And in that story, I was saying the person, may their name be remembered. And may the woman with the handbag, Danuta Danielsson's name be remembered.
I love that.
And may I have her photo and her painted minifigure on my person at all times.
On all times. In your purse. So that when you hit a neo-Nazi, she can also hit another neo-Nazi.
Oh my God, she's hitting neo-Nazis from the grave!
It's amazing.
I couldn't even figure out where she was buried. I
wonder if like her family maybe kept that really private and stuff.
I imagine so, because we think about the issues that we have with talking about mental health nowadays. Can you imagine the 1980s?
Yeah.
And like, especially with her mother being a Holocaust survivor and probably not getting a lot of help for her. It's the whole situation. The act of hitting this neo-Nazi in the head with a handbag, fucking amazing, 100% here for it. Everything around it, tragic and unnecessary.
Yeah.
So, because finding things to be thankful for can be a little
really
difficult.
difficult right now.
Yeah, and you know, it's just hard on the spot, especially after we're talking about people being enslaved and Nazis.
We're always thankful for our listeners, but
we're always thankful
old,
for you.
I'm sure.
But I'm sure you're sick of hearing it. So at the Wine and Wolves benefit, I bid on a self-care basket because it had this big fluffy crocheted blanket that I wanted, but it also came with like this book called 100 Days to Brave, Devotions for Unlocking Your Most Courageous Self. I did look up the author to see if they were problematic, because this is definitely like a Christian influence book, I will say. I couldn't find anything. So if Annie F. Downs is actually like an absolute psycho, please let me know. But I thought it would be interesting to read an affirmation for being brave instead of saying what we're thankful for. So day 1. What is brave, man? Does anyone really know? So, brave. What the fuck is it? I'm going to editorialize. I'm going to do whatever the hell I want. It's our podcast.
Do it. It's our podcast. No one controls us.
I'm going to do this in my Irish priest accent. Truth is, there's no formula for this. Okay, I'm going to read it normal. Truth is, there is no formula, and there are no rules. There is the Bible, our guidebook for all things, or Teen Vogue, or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, or The Devil Wears Prada, or Facebook memes, or whatever literature you spiritually subscribe to. Being brave is organic and spiritual and a unique journey for each person. I won't be saying, here's exactly what courage looks like, or if you want to really risk in a way that impacts the people around you, do these particular things. I don't think that works. I don't think you need me to tell you what to do. Yeah. I think you know, or if you don't, you will. Okay. I think you just need a little pregame warm-up, a little something to oomph you along, an understanding of the map you are holding. For the next 100 days, God willing we live that long, I want to show you that you are braver than you know. And with that knowledge in your back pocket, you can change the world because God knows it desperately needs to be changed. We need to send it back and workshop it and do some editing, some rewrites. So courage is doing things even when you're scared. Being brave isn't something that happens when you're not scared anymore. Brave people don't stop hearing the whispers of fear. They hear the whispers, but take action anyway. Being brave is hearing that voice of fear in your head, but saying, okay, but the truth is God made me on purpose and for a purpose, and I'm going to do what the fuck I want. I can tell you that the moments of my greatest fears, those times when I was sure I was going to wimp out under the pressure of it all, have also been the open doors to the greatest changes in my life. So I step out, full of fear, but trusting that God is on the other side in new and wonderful ways. And so far, she always is, and she will be there for you too. Real quick, do I think God is a woman? No, I don't think God has a gender, but that means calling God a he is also stupid, so I'm going to say wherever the fuck I want.
Yeah. She's going to say whatever tickles her fancy on any particular day.
Yeah. For anyone who's like mad at pronouns, why you say God's a he?
Right. Oh, yeah.
Have you checked God's genitals lately?
Right. Like, he's a god. He probably doesn't have genitals or can like
exactly.
will whatever the hell genitals they want at any given time.
Good. God is beyond genitals.
Yeah, right.
God is beyond genitals, gender, sex, understanding. She do what she won't.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think we could all use a little boost in feeling a little more brave lately. So there we go. We'll see what day number 2 brings us.
Week number 2.
Week number 2. It's going to take me a week to commit to that, like, it's okay to be scared thing. I'm like, no. A day is not long enough. I need a week to process this.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. Special thanks to Sophia Flores for sponsoring the glass of wine for this episode. Happy 21st. Mazel tov. Love you, girl. Like us on Facebook at Whining About Herstory, Instagram at WAHPad.
Our website is whiningaboutherstory.com, where you can find a link to all those things, as well as our merch and a link to our Patreon, where you can donate for as little as $1 a month. Join us for monthly happy hours and get some bonus content.
Our
Also-
dogs and cats make appearances all the time.
Oh,
Other
yeah.
people's animals make appearances. It's a lot of fun. The happy hours are a lot of fun.
It is. It's fun.
Teen Vogue is involved sometimes.
At least the last time it was crazy. Also rate us 5 stars wherever you listen because it pisses off all the right people. It's like hitting a Nazi with a handbag.
But virtually, which may
Yeah.
not be as satisfying, but it's something you can do from the comfort of your own home
Mm-hmm.
without getting blood on your purse.
Right, exactly.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Whining About Herstory. I'm Emily.
I'm Kelley.
Have an empowered day, y'all. Bye.
Bye. Go be brave.
Be brave and be a bitch.
Yeah, and hit people with purses
Always. Neo-Nazis.
if they deserve it.
Yeah.